They called me because they didn't know what else to do. A cousin of a friend, someone who heard I had a way with words, that I knew how to make people believe in something bigger than themselves. They said the girl wasn't herself anymore, that she'd changed overnight. I didn't laugh, but I wanted to. Demons, possession that wasn't real. I was just good at playing the part. A rosary in my hand, a few verses half remembered from childhood, a deep voice in the right places that was usually enough to calm people down. Fear gives way to belief, and belief gives way to peace. I thought that's all it would be. A game, a performance, something to trick desperate people into thinking the darkness was gone. But the moment I stepped into that house, I knew something wasn't right. The air felt wrong, heavy in a way that pressed on my chest, like I had walked into a place I wasn't meant to be. There was no cell signal, no sound from outside, not even the wind, just silence, thick and waiting. Then I saw her. She was sitting on the floor, eyes wide, body still to still. And when she looked up at me, it wasn't her face that moved, not really. It was something wearing her face. That's when I realized I wasn't playing a role anymore, and if I didn't find a way out, I wasn't going to be leaving that house at all. I haven't told anyone this before. Not my friends, not my family, not even the people who were there that night. They all think I walked away fine, that I just played my part and left like it was nothing. But you and I both know some things don't leave you. Some things cling. And I need to tell you this because I can't keep carrying it alone. I can't sleep anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I hear that voice again. Those words that didn't belong to any human mouth. You seem like someone who's seen strange things too. Someone who's heard noises in the dark that couldn't be explained away by the house settling, or by a branch scratching the window. Someone who's felt the silence press in too heavy, like the air itself wanted to smother you. I don't think I'd be saying this to anyone else, but right now, I just need someone who will listen. Just listen. I know how it sounds like a fake exorcist. Some broken down house that felt like a cabin in the woods, even though it was closer to the outskirts of town. No cell signal, no way to call for help if things got out of hand. And they did. I swear to you, I went in thinking it would be a performance. I wasn't even nervous. I've dealt with people before who thought they were cursed or haunted. All it took was a few whispered prayers, a hand pressed to their forehead, and they'd start to shake like something was leaving them. Placebo faith. That's all I ever sold. But this was different. There were moments in that house where I felt watched, like there was something standing behind me, leaning in close enough that I should have felt breath on my neck. The strangest part, every clock in that house had stopped. Each one showed a different time, frozen as if the house had collected moments and locked them away. And the girl, the one they wanted me to save, she would sit in silence until the exact moment I started speaking. Then, without warning, she'd whisper back the end of my sentences, like she already knew what I was going to say. I haven't been able to explain that, and believe me, I've tried. The nights since then have been endless. Sleepless nights where I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the walls to start whispering again. Because they do. Or maybe it's not the walls. Maybe it's me. Sometimes I hear my own voice calling my name from the corner of the room. Sometimes I hear hers, soft and broken, asking if I'll come back. The thing is, I never gave her my name. Not once. That's why I'm telling you this. I need to put it somewhere, with someone who won't just dismiss me as tired or paranoid. You've felt it, haven't you? That cold dread when the house goes too quiet, when even the birds outside seem to stop singing. The way your reflection in the window doesn't quite move in sync. Those are signs. At least, that's what I believe now. Signs that you're not alone, even when you think you are. I know you're thinking, why not tell a priest, a doctor, anyone who could help? The truth is, I don't trust them. Not after what I saw that night. I don't think this was ever something holy or unholy. I think it was older than that. and I think it followed me home. There are moments when I'm walking alone at night where I swear I hear footsteps pacing behind me, slow and careful. When I turn around, nothing, no one, just the dark road stretching back. But I feel it, that presence, waiting. I don't know if it wants me to come back or if it's already here, just waiting for me to give in. Promise me something though. Promise me you won't try to find it. If you ever hear about that house, if someone tells you about a girl who changed overnight, about a place with no signal where the silence feels alive, don't go. Please, don't make the same mistake I did. I thought I was safe because I didn't believe in it. That's the cruelest part. It doesn't matter if you believe. It only matters if it believes in you. And I think it believed in me. You'd probably think of it as a cabin in the woods, though calling it a cabin almost feels too kind. It wasn't cozy or quaint. There were no rocking chairs on the porch, no warm light spilling from the windows. Instead, it sat there in the clearing like something half forgotten, swallowed up by the forest around it. The roof sagged in places, the wood looked swollen and dark from years of rain, and the windows were so clouded with dust they might as well have been painted over. When I first saw it, my instinct was to turn around. Something about the structure looked wrong. Not wrong in the way of broken beams or poor construction. Wrong in the way a reflection is wrong when it lags just a second too long. Its angles didn't seem to line up. I'd look at a corner and swear it should meet cleanly, but it didn't. The roof sloped too sharply. The steps leading up to the porch looked uneven, like they shifted the moment you blinked. I remember thinking it was the kind of place that shouldn't still be standing. Yet there it was, stubborn against the weight of time. And the strangest part, the forest around it was completely silent. Not just quiet, silent. No wind moving through the trees, no birds, no insects buzzing. If you've ever been deep in the woods, you know that's not normal. Even at night, the forest is alive with sound. But standing there, staring at that house, it felt like the world was holding its breath. The family who called me in said the place used to belong to their grandfather. According to them, he'd built it himself, piece by piece, and swore it was meant to be a safe place. That's what they kept calling it, safe. But if you've ever looked at something and just felt the exact opposite, then you know what I felt standing at the edge of those warped steps. The locals had their own way of describing it. They whispered about it the way people whisper about cursed roads or abandoned mines. Places you don't go, not because you believe in the stories, but because you don't want to take the chance that they're true. Some said people went missing in that part of the woods. Others claimed you could hear voices calling you deeper if you walked past it at night. Most just shrugged and said the place wasn't right, and maybe that's what hooked me in. I didn't believe in demons or possession. Not really, but I did believe in stories, and this cabin had one. I could feel it pressing in on me as I crossed the porch, every step groaning under my weight, like the house was sighing that someone had returned. Inside, it was worse. The air was damp and stale, as if no one had opened a window in years. Dust hung in the beams of light, like tiny floating bodies, and the smell of rot lingered even though I couldn't find the source. The wallpaper was peeling in long strips, revealing wood beneath that looked almost scorched, blackened in places that shouldn't have been touched by fire. And then there were the clocks. Everywhere I looked, there was a clock. Old ones, with brass pendulums, small ones, set on mantels, even cheap plastic ones you'd expect to find in a grocery store. Each one frozen, each one stopped at a different time. Some at noon, some at midnight, some at odd minutes in between. But not a single one was ticking. I thought maybe the grandfather had been a collector, but the family told me he hated clocks. They had no idea where they'd come from. Do you see what I mean? Even before I started, even before I met the girl they claimed was possessed, I could feel it. That presence. Like the house had a pulse of its own, beating just under the silence. Night. It got worse. I wasn't even staying there, but after that first visit, my sleep was broken. Sleepless nights filled with faint echoes of sounds I'd heard inside the house. Knocking, whispering, a dragging sound, like furniture being pushed across a wooden floor. I'd wake up certain I wasn't alone, certain that if I looked at the corner of my room, I'd see someone standing there. Back at the cabin though, the details only grew stranger. When I looked at my reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror, I noticed something off. My lips would move half a second slower than I knew they should. My eyes blinked out of rhythm with the rest of my face. I tried to brush it off as old glass warping the image, but when I leaned closer, I swear I saw another face forming just behind mine, and the girl. She wasn't what I expected. She didn't thrash or scream like in the movies. Most of the time she just sat there, staring at the wall, humming under her breath. A low, tuneless hum that made the hairs on my arms stand up. It wasn't until she finally looked at me that I realized what had everyone so terrified. Her eyes didn't match. Not the color, no. They didn't match me. They didn't match the room. They didn't even seem to match each other. One eye tracked me normally, the other darted somewhere else, as though it was watching something over my shoulder. Every time I stepped inside that cabin, the air felt thicker, heavier, like I was being pressed down by invisible hands. And outside, in the trees, the silence was constant. You'd think eventually you'd hear a crow or the rustle of an animal passing by, but there was nothing, just the sound of my own breathing, and sometimes, when I paused long enough, another breath beneath it. That was the setup. That was what I walked into, blind and arrogant, thinking I could wave around a few prayers and pretend to be an exorcist. I thought I could fake it, but you can't fake your way out of something that already knows you, something that's already chosen you. The first night I stayed in the cabin, I told myself it was just a test of nerves, a test of patience, maybe even a test of faith. I figured if I was going to play the part of an exorcist, I should at least spend time in the place that was supposed to be cursed. The family didn't want to stay past sundown, so when I offered to spend the night alone, they agreed without hesitation, too eagerly, almost as if they were relieved to hand me over to the house. I tried to make it feel normal. I set my bag down in the main room, cleared a space on the couch, and lit a lantern since the electricity had been cut years ago. But no matter how many times I told myself this was just a job, just a story I was walking into, I couldn't shake the silence. You don't realize how much comfort you get from background noise until it's gone. A creak of pipes, the hum of a fridge, the faint buzz of traffic far away. Here, there was nothing, just my breathing, just my heartbeat. And after a while, even those started to sound foreign, like they belonged to someone else. It began with knocking. At first it was soft, a single tap 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 from the far wall. So faint I thought maybe it was the wood settling. I held my breath, waiting, and it stopped. But as soon as I moved, as soon as I tried to relax, it came again. Louder this time. Knock, knock, knock. I checked the wall. Nothing. I walked the perimeter with my lantern, half expecting to find a raccoon, or maybe a loose branch swaying in the wind. But there was no wind. The trees outside were still. The night was still. And when I pressed my ear to the wall, the knocking started again. Only now it wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from inside the wall. I told myself I was imagining it. Stress, exhaustion, suggestion. But then I returned to the couch, and the knocking followed me. Not fast, not frantic, patient. Always 3 knocks, always in rhythm, as though something was tracking me from within the walls. Mirroring my steps by midnight, I was sitting upright on the couch, lantern dimming, staring at the front door. I'd locked it earlier. I remembered turning the bolt, but as I watched, the door handle twitched. Slowly, deliberately, I froze. My throat closed up, and I thought maybe it was the wood expanding. maybe the old mechanics shifting. But then I heard it. The sound of the lock turning. Click. I was on my feet before I realized it, gripping the lantern tight enough that the metal burned into my palm. The bolt slid back on its own. The knob turned, and the door creaked open an inch, just enough for the night air to brush against my face. There was nothing there, just the trees, just the dark. But when I shut the door again and forced the lock back into place, I noticed something I hadn't before. A handprint, small, pale, pressed into the wood at eye level. Not greasy, not dirty, just faint, almost like the shape had been burned into the grain itself. That was the first night. The second was worse. I dreamed, at least. I think I dreamed. I was lying on the couch. The lantern burned out, and the room was darker than it should have been. I heard a voice, whispering, not from outside, not from inside the walls, from directly above me. It said my name, slowly, carefully, as though it was trying it on for the first time. When I jolted awake, the whisper didn't stop. It sank into the room around me, layered and echoing. I tried covering my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't entering through my ears, it was already inside my head. I grabbed my phone for comfort, knowing full well there was no signal this deep in the woods. The screen lit up anyway, and for just a moment, I saw something impossible. My background photo was gone, replaced with the image of the cabin itself, taken from the outside, from the tree line, as if someone had been watching me through the window. By morning, the couch was no longer against the wall where I'd left it. It had been dragged, slow and heavy, to the center of the room. My bag, too, had been moved, not emptied, not rifled through, just shifted a few inches closer to the door, as if to remind me where the exit was. On the third night, I tried to fight it. I set up barriers, salt at the doorways, a makeshift cross from 2 sticks lashed together. I muttered prayers I barely remembered from childhood, and for a while, it seemed to work. The cabin was quiet, too quiet. Then the clocks started. Remember the broken frozen clocks scattered throughout the house? At exactly 3:07 a.m., every single one ticked once. Just once. The sharp sound of gears snapping into place filled the room. And then, in perfect unison, they all began to chime. Different times, different tones, but together. A cacophony of ours that didn't exist. I covered my ears. I screamed. I begged for it to stop. And then, as suddenly as it began, silence. Not even the echo of a bell. Just me, trembling in the middle of that warped living room, surrounded by clocks that had never worked, and now stared back at me like open mouths. By then, I knew it wasn't the girl who was possessed. Not really. She was just tethered, a mouthpiece. The real thing was the house, the cabin itself. Every board, every wall, every nail hammered into place, it all held something that didn't want to let go. That night, when I finally managed to fall asleep, the dream returned. But this time, it wasn't just a whisper above me. It was breathing, heavy, shallow breaths right against my ear, so close I could feel the warmth of it. And when I turned over in the dream, I wasn't lying on the couch anymore. I was lying on the floorboards, face pressed against the wood, staring at a single eye, staring back through a crack, watching me, blinking, smiling without a mouth. I woke to find my lantern lit, though I hadn't touched it. The flame was low, flickering, and in its glow, I saw something I still can't explain. The furniture, every chair, every table, had been rearranged. Not randomly, not in chaos, in a circle, perfect, unbroken, with me lying at the center. I didn't fake it anymore after that. I couldn't. I wasn't pretending to be an exorcist. I wasn't pretending to be anything. I was begging, pleading, whispering into the dark like a child calling for their mother. Because by then, the house had made it clear. This wasn't a performance. It wasn't a job. It was a trap, and I was already part of it. I don't know how much longer I would have lasted if I hadn't found the journal. It didn't save me, not really, but it gave me something worse. A glimpse into the thing I was standing against, or maybe the thing I was standing inside. It was the fourth morning when I discovered it, after another night of little sleep. My eyes burned, my chest ached, and though I must have drifted in and out, it felt like I'd been awake for days. The circle of furniture was still there in the center of the room, untouched. I didn't dare move it anymore. I was terrified that breaking the pattern would unleash something I couldn't put back. While pacing the cabin, I noticed a floorboard in the far corner of the main room. It was slightly loose, warped from years of damp air. When I stepped on it, I heard something different beneath my hollow feet, as if there was a hidden space. My fingers clawed at the wood until it splintered, and when the board gave way, I found a book pressed into the cavity below. The cover was leather, blackened at the edges as if burned, and when I opened it, the smell of mildew and something far older filled my lungs. The handwriting inside was shaky, spidery, and though time had worn the ink to near dust, the name on the first page was clear. Jonah H. The date, 1913. Jonah wasn't the name of the family who'd asked me to cleanse this cabin. This was someone else, someone who had lived here long before, and who clearly hadn't left on his own terms. The early entries were plain enough talks of hunting in the woods, repairing the roof, surviving the cold, but the tone shifted within months. Jonah wrote of sleepless nights, of scratching in the walls, of dreams that left him gasping awake. His sentences grew frantic, his handwriting jagged, and then I found the entry that chilled me more than anything I'd seen yet. It whispers when I try to pray. Say my name? Says it has always been here. Says I should look into the cracks of the floorboards, because it is looking back. The lantern beside me sputtered as I read those words. I wanted to close the book, throw it back into the hole where it belonged, but my hands wouldn't listen. I turned the page, and what I saw made my stomach twist. Jonah had written about carvings, strange symbols etched into the underside of beams, runes and spirals that seemed to reveal themselves when he sanded the wood. Eyes, always eyes. He said they were watching him, following him no matter where he stood. One passage wasn't just a description, it was a warning. If you hear it on the walls, do not follow. If you see it in the glass, do not answer. If you dream of the circle, do not step inside. It feeds on attention. It grows when you look at it too long. Do not write about it. Do not give it shape. The next page was torn. I sat there, trembling, the journal heavy in my lap. Every word Jonah wrote was something I had already lived. The knocking, the whispers, the circle. He had been trapped by the same patterns that now surrounded me, and his voice was reaching across time to tell me exactly what I was doing wrong. My mind pulled back to something I had dismissed earlier on my first day here. The youngest child of the family had pointed to the kitchen wall and said, "That's where the words are." I had laughed it off as a child's imagination, but now, clutching Jonah's journal, I couldn't ignore it. I took the lantern and searched. Behind a cabinet, faint but deep in the wood, I found them. Letters carved into the wall, jagged and desperate. "Don't let it out." Around those words were more of the same strange spirals and eyes Jonah had described, carved in layers upon layers as if someone had tried to reinforce the wall with warnings, as though words alone could bind something in place. Suddenly, it made sense. The carvings weren't random marks, they were seals, desperate containment, and I had been breaking them every single night I stayed here. The knocking on the walls, the door unlocking, the whispers in my sleep, they weren't attacks, they were invitations. Each time I acknowledged them, each time I reacted, I weakened whatever fragile cage Jonah had left behind. I thought of burning the journal, ending its influence, before I did what he had feared most, giving the presence more form, more power. I held it close to the lantern's flame, but the paper refused to catch. The fire bent away from it, as if repelled. The book would not burn. That night, the dreams were worse. I saw Jonah, or something that wore Jonah's shape. He crouched at the edge of my vision, his skin gray and sagging, his eyes empty sockets. His lips moved in silence at first, and then, as he leaned close, the sound arrived. But it wasn't his voice. It was deeper, layered, endless, echoing through me as if it came from inside my chest. "You opened it?" it said. I woke up with tears streaking my face, clutching the journal to my chest, and when I looked down, I noticed a line at the bottom of a page I swear hadn't been there before. "It wants you to write its story." That was when the dread truly set in. I realized what I was doing. By reading Jonah's words, by speaking them aloud in the quiet of the cabin, by remembering them, I was already feeding it, already giving it form, already carrying its story forward the way Jonah had warned against. I wanted to deny it, to believe I still had control. But when I looked up at the window, I saw something that ended all doubt. A reflection, not mine. A pale face pressed against the inside of the glass, grinning wide eyes, like holes cut into the world, watching me, waiting. And in that moment, I finally understood what Jonah had meant. The cabin wasn't haunted. It wasn't cursed. It was alive, and it had been waiting for me. I knew I couldn't stay another night in that cabin, not after the reflection in the glass. Not after the journal's warning seemed to write itself into my hands. My body ached with exhaustion, but panic is its own kind of fuel. I shoved my few belongings into my bag, though I kept the journal, whether out of fear or compulsion, I can't say. Every instinct screamed to leave it behind, but my fingers wouldn't unclench from the cracked leather cover. I told myself I'd throw it into the woods once I was clear of the cabin. I told myself a lot of things I didn't believe. The forest was quiet when I stepped outside. Not peaceful, just hollow. The kind of silence that presses against your eardrums until it feels like you're underwater. The air was heavy, damp, and the path that had once seemed so simple to follow now twisted in ways I didn't recognize. Branches leaned low, curling together, choking out the sky. It should have been mid-morning, but the light filtering through the canopy looked more like twilight. I kept walking anyway, one foot in front of the other, repeating under my breath like a prayer, "Out, just get out." But the further I went, the stranger it became. I'd pass a fallen tree, only to see it again minutes later, a crooked stump shaped like a broken hand, repeating along the trail as though the forest was folding in on itself. My phone still had no signal, no GPS, just a black screen that seemed to drink the light. At one point, I heard running water, a creek gurgling nearby, and I rushed toward it, desperate for some landmark. But when I pushed through the brush, there was nothing. Just more trees, more silence. My heart pounded, and for the first time, I considered the possibility that leaving wasn't possible. Not anymore. I sat down on a rock, clutching the journal, and tried to steady my breathing. My hands trembled as I flipped it open, searching for some kind of direction, some clue Jonah might have left behind. My eyes landed on a passage scrawled in frantic ink. "It won't let you leave until you choose. Stay, and it consumes you. Go, and you carry it." The words made no sense, and too much sense all at once. I slammed the book shut and pressed my palms to my face, whispering to myself that it was only in my head, only exhaustion, only fear. That's when the forest shifted. I don't know how else to describe it. One moment I was staring at a wall of trees, and the next, there was a clearing that hadn't been there before. In the center stood a figure. At first, I thought it was a man, but the longer I looked, the less certain I became. Its proportions were wrong. 2 tall limbs stretched just a little too long. Its head tilted at an unnatural angle, watching me the way an insect studies prey. My breath caught in my throat. I should have run. Every instinct told me to run, but my legs refused to move. The figure raised a hand, thin, pale, the fingers far too many, and pointed back the way I had come, the direction of the cabin. I shook my head violently, whispering, "No, I'm not going back. I can't." The figure tilted its head farther, and for a moment, I thought it might laugh. Not out loud, but inside me, like the echo of amusement pressed against my ribs. Then, in the faintest voice, layered and broken, it spoke. "You already belong." Something in me snapped. I ran. I don't remember how long, maybe minutes, maybe hours. The trees blurred together, the air thick with the sound of my ragged breathing. I thought if I just kept moving, if I didn't stop, I might outrun it. But the truth is, I wasn't sure if I was moving forward or running in circles. Once, I swore I saw the cabin ahead, its crooked roofline through the trees, and I veered off the path to avoid it, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Another time, I stumbled into a patch of dirt where the ground was scratched with symbols, spirals, eyes, the same as the walls inside. I didn't dare look too long. I just kept running until my legs gave out beneath me. When I finally collapsed, the journal slid from my hands and fell open on the forest floor. My eyes caught one last entry, scrawled across the page like a confession. "It will not let me go. It walks when I walk. It sleeps when I sleep." If you are reading this, you are already marked. The ink was fresh, wet. I slammed the book shut, my stomach twisting as realization sank in. Jonah hadn't written that a century ago. Those words had been written for me. Maybe by me. I don't remember falling asleep, but I must have, because when I opened my eyes again, the light had changed. Dawn, real dawn this time. Birds sang faintly in the trees, the first sound of life I'd heard in days. The path ahead looked clear, and for the first time, I saw the distant shimmer of a road, civilization. I staggered to my feet, clutching the journal, and forced myself forward, step after step, until I emerged from the tree line onto asphalt. Cars, a gas station, the world again. I should have felt relieved. I should have laughed, cried, and fallen to my knees in gratitude, but instead, I felt nothing. Just emptiness, just silence, even in the hum of passing engines. When I looked down, the journal was gone. My hands were empty. And yet, when I pressed my palm against my chest, I could feel it there, heavy as stone, beating with my heart. I don't know if I escaped that cabin. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe I walked out. Maybe I only think I did. Maybe I never left at all. All I know is that the forest still lingers behind my eyes when I close them. The circle still waits in my dreams. And sometimes, when I catch my reflection in glass, it doesn't look quite like me anymore. I haven't been the same since that night. Since that cabin. Since the forest swallowed me and spat me back out onto the side of a road I can't remember reaching. I keep telling myself I escaped, that I made it out, but I don't believe it. Not really. Every time I close my eyes, I feel the weight of that place pressing against me, as though I never left at all. Sometimes I wonder if I'm still there, sitting in that crooked little room, staring into the warped mirror. Maybe everything since has been nothing more than the dream of something already claimed. I don't sleep anymore. Not properly. When exhaustion finally drags me under, the dreams are waiting. The circle is always there, carved into the wood, etched into the dirt, glowing faintly as though it burns from within. And in those dreams, I hear it breathing, slow, patient, as though it doesn't need to chase me, because it knows I'll always come back. I wake up with the sheets tangled around my body, sweat clinging to my skin, convinced for a moment that the whispers I heard were still echoing in the room. Sometimes they are. I've tried to explain it away. Sleep paralysis, trauma, hallucinations brought on by stress. But when you see your own reflection smile, when your mouth doesn't move, when you watch your breath fog a mirror in a room too cold for air explanations to stop mattering. I've seen things twist in the corners of photographs, pale outlines where no one was standing. I've caught shapes in glass tall, crooked things leaning too close. And I swear, sometimes, when I'm walking home late at night. I hear footsteps, just out of rhythm with mine. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. Maybe because I can't carry it alone anymore. Maybe because I need someone else to hear it, to share the burden, even for a few minutes. You seem like someone who's seen strange things, someone who won't laugh, someone who understands that some stories aren't just stories, they're warnings. That's what this is, a warning. If you ever find yourself in a cabin like that, deep in the woods with no signal, no neighbors, no escape, don't stay. Don't even step inside. Burn it to the ground if you can, but don't let the walls close around you. Don't let the silence trick you into thinking you're alone, and whatever you do, don't open anything left behind. No journals, no carvings, no mirrors. Curiosity is the crack it needs to get in, because once it does, it never leaves. I've tried moving, changing my life, putting miles between me and that stretch of forest. None of it works. It isn't about the cabin anymore. It isn't about the trees or the journal or even Jonah. It's about me, about what followed me back, about what looks through my eyes when I stare too long into glass. I don't think it ever wanted the cabin. I think it wanted me. And now that it has me, I don't think it's going to let go. I live in this uneasy quiet now, every day stretched thin between pretending to be normal and waiting for the moment it decides to stop pretending with me. Sometimes I think I can almost hear it breathing inside my own chest. Sometimes I wonder if you can hear it too, faintly, under my voice right now. So, if I can leave you with anything, it's this. Don't look for the cabin. Don't listen for the forest. Don't answer when the silence feels too heavy, when the shadows seem too long. Promise me you won't try to find it. Promise me you'll let this story stay what it is. A warning whispered in the dark, from someone already too far gone. Because if you don't, if you go looking, then I think you already know what you'll find. You've listened this far, which tells me something about you. Maybe you've felt it to the weight in the air when the house should be quiet, but it isn't. Maybe you've woken to the sound of your name, whispered in a voice that wasn't there when you turned the light on. Or maybe, like me, you've stared too long into the dark and realized something was staring back. I can't be the only one. That's why I'm telling you this. Not just as a warning, but because I need to know if anyone else has felt it. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the cold already waiting for you? Have you ever heard footsteps when you were supposed to be alone? If you have, I want you to tell me. Write it down. Share it here. Let me see it. I read every single one, because maybe your story will sound too familiar. Maybe your story will prove I'm not losing my mind. And if you haven't, if nothing like this has ever touched your life, then promise me something. Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me that if you ever hear a knock on the door when no one should be there, you won't answer. Promise me that if you ever find yourself in a cabin where the air feels wrong, you'll turn around and leave. Because the things I've told you don't stay in stories. They move, they spread. And the more you think about them, the more you speak them aloud, the easier it is for them to find you. So, if you're going to listen to the next story, don't do it alone.